to myself.
Okay.
Okay. So, tell me about yourself and your interest in finance.
Well, not to go too far back, but I grew up in DC, went to an all-academic high school, always was in love with business. I read an autobiography of Reginald Lewis, one of the first African-American billionaires, and that's what got me into business. I went to college down Florida A&M University, graduated cum laude, and they didn't have a finance concentration, so I came to FDU. Originally as an international business major, because I was interested in international business, but my academic advisor said that finance was a strong concentration for this university. So I switched my concentration to finance. That's pretty much the academic side.
Do you find that was something that furthered your interest in finance specifically?
Well, originally I did international business with the thought that I would do international business and as my electives take finance courses sort of to customize as a, international finance focus. But from the advice I got from, I guess, the advisor and professors was that every class has a global focus to it. That's not necessarily a specific niche or area that's going to be a competitive advantage when you graduate. It's just something you're expected to know with an MBA. That finance is much more of an expertise or acumen that you can sell.
I see. Okay. Tell me about your experience with the medical device company. What it taught you and what you gained from it.
Oh, it was a wonderful experience. Even from the beginning, before we even got to actually start working with the companies, it taught me about negotiations was the first lesson I learned. Because in the class, it's the capstone class for Fairleigh Dickinson University, we have a set of companies that come in and they pitch their business and we vote on which ones we want to work with. And originally the medical device company, the device they were working with was for hemorrhoids. It was at the bottom of the list, it wasn't that popular. So what I did was, I saw that the company that everybody wanted was an internet book company. So I said, how about if we put the medical device company number 2, I'll vote for it as number 1, because originally I didn't have it as number 1, and the group was really diversified in what their number 1s were. So it ended up being the choice that we took, because a couple other groups wanted the number 1 choice, and nobody wanted the medical device company except for us. I wanted the medical device company because I found out that the owner, through my conversation with him, after he gave his business pitch, he went around the room and talked to the students. He was an M&A associate for most of his career. For 20 years, he worked in mergers and acquisitions. And I was interested in investment banking and mergers and acquisitions as a career.
I see. So that's what.
That was the first thing that drew me. Because beyond the project or what the medical device or the marketing strategy that we ended up creating for him, I felt the best thing that I attained from that, I guess, situation was that the high amount or high level of professionalism that he dealt with things. He seemed to have a much smoother, more polished way of articulating himself, describing his business, the problems, the issues. It just seemed a lot, it was a lot, I guess, at a different level, a more advanced level, a sophisticated level than the other startups were. Which he should be, because it was something he had done for 20 years. And a lot of the other businesses were just startups and new businesses or people that are just getting into business.
So you were driven by your interest in mergers and acquisitions because you thought you could learn something more about that through this?
I thought I could learn more about professional development, how to carry myself in business situations. Not specific to mergers and acquisitions, but to any field.
If you can tell me, what would you say are 3 major principles or 3 of the most important principles in corporate finance?
Important from an employee perspective or from the business?
From a business perspective.
Corporate finance, in terms of financial performance, I'd say intrinsic value, meaning not the market value of deals that you do, but what the actual value of the deal is worth. Because the market can be in flux so much of the times, and they can overvalue or undervalue what a transaction is worth. You need to know what the actual business or assets that you're purchasing or looking to purchase or sell are worth. Another thing I'd say is from corp finance, integrity. Integrity of the business deal. I feel like reputation is very huge. A lot of businesses are gained and lost on reputation, and once the reputation's gone bad, it's very hard to bring it back to a standing, good standing.
Is there anything else you can name about that?
Oh yeah.
So, an important principle of corporate finance.
Are you talking about academic principles or just principles
No,
in general?
business, from a business point of view.
Okay. Oh yeah. I guess the third principle that I touched on earlier was the level of professionalism in corporate finance. The way deals are done, emails, introductions, soft introductions, letters. Everything has a certain formality and has to be pinpoint and detail oriented. You need to be consistent in everything you do. There's not a lot of room for error.
Can you explain assimilation of financial and operating data?
Assimilation? Explain what you mean by assimilation.
Well, for instance, I'm looking through, in looking through a letter of recommendation, it seems that one of the things that was written about you is that you showed an interest in assimilation of financial and operating data.
Sure. I guess I could talk about the last project. Well, I worked in operations for 8 years in restaurant management. But that's a little bit different than corporate operations, where the business model is a lot more simplified, but it's generally the same principles, where you're translating business processes into financial results. So when you're creating operational efficiencies, you're looking for how can I improve, I guess, human performance into bottom line numbers. So basically, what you're usually dealing with is either re-engineering a process, how an employee goes about doing a certain thing so that you can streamline it. So maybe you need, instead of 3 employees, you need 1 employee to do the job. Or you're looking at some way of, in the restaurant business, creating a cheaper product without decreasing the amount of customer utility or satisfaction they get from the product. So give an example, if I'm creating a menu and there's an order or a steak or order of wings, if I can some way decrease my raw materials or cost of goods without having the customer say, wow, this order isn't what it used to be.
So decreasing costs without compromising value.
Right.
I guess that feeds into integrity.
Right.
What would you say your 3 strongest points are?
My 3 strongest points? I like to talk about hard skills, but I feel like my strongest point is that my want to improve. I have a quantifiable performance improvement system where I have a weekly agenda, a weekly planner, and I have goals that I have listed out. They're usually numbered, whether it be that help me get better in all facets, business and also in my personal life. But specifically for business, it would be like if I felt like my Excel skills needed to get better, I say I need to dedicate 10 hours this week to an Excel tutorial. If I felt like my valuation skills needed to get better, this month I need to read 3 books on valuation and then complete 3 discounted cash flow analysis on these companies. So that's outside of the job, but I feel like it helps me get better on the job. Because I feel like you need to do something outside of the job to get better on the job. Just doing the day-to-day tasks doesn't make you better, it just gives you more work. At the end of the year, though, your employer still wants to see improvement.
Okay. Where do you find your weakest points to be?
Maybe, I wouldn't say neurotic, but a bit compulsive about going over and rereading, proofreading, and details. I may get cut off that, and it may cause some tasks to be longer than they should be, but I want to make sure everything's right, and I guess planning. with presentations, just the idea of getting it perfect. A little bit of a perfectionist, I guess I would say. And then a lot of times you don't have time for that maybe in certain situations where things need to be done in this set amount of time. Where you need to stop at this point. It may not be perfect, but this is what you need to do and move on to the next task. Everything can't be perfected, I don't think, in every when you work in real life. I don't just think that there's enough time for you to perfect every task.
Well, why should I hire you?
Why should you hire me? Well, what you get is an employee that has a track record of performance, good performance in varied fields, so that I have the ability to improve and thrive no matter the task. So if there's a high learning curve, you know I have a record of meeting the task, even if my previous background doesn't correlate that well with the task at hand.
So, is there anything more you want to say about why I should hire you? I mean, I appreciate what you've told me.
Right. Well, that I'm competitive, and that when you see my transcript, like a lot of the grades, you see A's, but many times it was the best grade in the class. So that while it's strong performance, it doesn't, I guess, belie the real performance that I went the extra mile in a lot of them and did a lot of extra assignments. That doesn't show up in the record because the A just says you did good in the class. But I went beyond that to learn more about the nuances of what I'm dealing with.
Oh, where would you like to see yourself in about 5 years?
In 5 years?
I know that's a hard question to answer.
Right.
It's not even really a fair question to ask because I know that there are many things that could happen that cannot be foreseen for anybody to have a crystal ball. But let's just say right now, based on what you know about the economy, what you know about the world today,
Right.
where would you like to see yourself in 5 years if you can convey an answer?
Okay. In 5 years, within my professional, I guess with the professional scope of things, I like to see myself at least with one promotion, and this is the entry level role, so I'd like to see myself at least mid-senior level. Moving up, definitely. And I'd also like to see the company growing with me. Meaning like not just me moving up in a company that has really stayed flat in their performance. Hopefully it's somewhere where my impact has helped the company grow.
How do you feel about working with other individuals on group projects?
I prefer group work over individual work. Individual work is easier in the respect that you don't have to compromise to make decisions. So it can be, in a sense, more efficient. But I feel like when you're working in groups, because of brainstorming and synergy that's created with working with other individuals, I feel like you're going to get much more stronger results. And I also learn a lot more working in groups. Go ahead.
If you had to work by yourself on a major project with a deadline that is in the far distance, how would you approach budgeting your time to complete a major project over a long period of time?
I think in the initial stages, you write an outline. You always plan it out. Like this are the different sections, or you break down different sections chronologically that need to be completed. Then I would estimate exactly how much time it was, and then you look at your schedule to see where you can fit it in. That's how I did it in MBA school. But most of the times, I ended up, like if I'm working on something, I sort of have a focused tunnel vision, I'll keep working on it. So I usually end up ahead of schedule. If I have free time, I'll dedicate it to the project.
Do you feel, would you say that you are well organized in your work habits and your ability to prioritize? Or do you feel that perhaps you take on too much and it may cause you to procrastinate if you feel you're throwing too much into a project, that it might cause some confusion and obscure your vision for clarity of completion of a project, since you tend to be very detail oriented and maybe obsessive about reviewing things, do you think that you stay well organized and focused?
Yeah. We know what helps me a lot is in my planning stages, I'm pretty conservative in my estimates of time. What I mean by conservative is saying, like, if I think something takes 15 minutes in the planning stage, I'll write it down in the outline that it takes 45 minutes or a half an hour. So when it comes down to doing it, I say, wow, I finished in 15. In my mind, I've forgotten the planning stage that I knew it finished in 15. So I can jump to stage 2 because I still have half an hour. So in that way, it works out where I'm always ahead of my planned schedule. And sometimes if it doesn't do that, though, there have been times where, like, I'll give an example. I was in on my organizational behavior class. I handed in a paper, and the professor didn't like the result from our group project. So I had to sit down for like the next 36 hours and actually redo the whole paper. It was a term paper.
By yourself?
Yeah, but I think the planning ahead of time gave me the time to do that, though, because everything else I had to do was done.
I see. Okay, well, I appreciate your taking the time out to speak with me about your skills, and I wish I could tell you more about this position you're applying for, but I appreciate learning everything I have about you, and you'll be hearing from us soon.
Okay, it was very nice to meet you. Thank you.
Nice to meet you too.
I'm going to turn off the camera.